Ghost Coat Magazine welcomes in Tom from Thank You Scientist. How are you doing?
Howdy. Thanks for having me, Ghost Coat Magazine. I appreciate
Yeah, my friends call me Keefy, but Keith is also fine. Ghost Cult is fine. It doesn't really matter. I always thought of us like the Ramones, Ghost Cult Keefy, Ghost Cult Omar, whoever. That's how we just do it here. But yeah, man, pleasure to see you. And again, happy holidays if you're celebrating. And I hope everybody in the camp of the band and yourself, family, friends, collaborators, conspirators, I hope everybody is well because this has been a second dumpster fire year in a row. Some
We
good,
can't
not
win, man. We can't win.
can't seem to win. It's not all bad
Yeah.
because the band has been, seems outwardly thriving with the awesome new EP, Plague Accommodations, and the Sixth Man Cruise with Coheed, who are kind of mentors to you guys a little bit with Claudio and his label, Evil Inc. I think you guys are kind of indie now with this latest release, but we can talk about that if you want to. But just in general, it seems like, making a good thing out of a bad thing. So let's dial it back for a second and talk about the EP. Was this something you guys composed because of the pandemic, during the pandemic? Obviously, it's got that connotation with the title that it might be
Yeah.
themed.
I would say a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. It was so we released this pretty large giant album right before the world shut down, this album Terraformer. That was like a big 90-minute bloated extravaganza, and that was a lot of music. And before we were able to kind of I think properly share that with the world, or at least I don't know, explore it live, you know, too much. We got one tour out of it, and then the world shut down, which what it's better than some. We got a tour out, but we knew coming back we wanted to have something, and it was just us kind of getting together whenever we could and whenever it was safe, and just passing ideas back and forth, and kind of just trying to have something fresh for people, but I don't think at the time I wanted the stress of doing a huge and myself and the whole band included. We were like, I remember we had like a goal in our rehearsal space after Terraformer. I'm like, okay, what do we want this next thing to be? And the biggest thing on the board was less than 90 minutes. So yeah, I mean, it was whoever could have saw this kind of situation coming. But that was it. We're just like, well, we want to put out something, you know, and as if we, Corona wasn't as all encompassing and unescapable as we thought it was. Our EP totally unintentionally, and it sounds like I'm lying, but it was 20 minutes and 20 seconds, totally by chance, on the money.
Right on.
Um,
My favorite late year meme so far has been when you realize that 2022 is pronounced 2022.
yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
translate to a conversation, but if you folks
No,
out there
yeah, too real.
watching can, yeah,
Hmm.
you guys made the best of a situation, and the EP is great. I actually really was getting into that record last year. I love the Fox. I love anything X Files, so of course I love the Fox Mulder song. And weirdly, I think because people were trapped at home, I think in a weird way, again, there's no good that a lot of people have lost stuff. We lost people. It's rough, but like if anything good came out of for the music world, on one hand, yes, a lot of people were your bands were crippled, felt people didn't feel creative, depressed, or whatever. But on the other hand, it did force people to just kind of appreciate. I feel like appreciate music a little more, especially sort of anything not mainstream, a little indie, a little underground. I think it
Yeah.
was like people were hunting for something to enjoy, and so in that case, when you have a 90-minute album that you have to sit with, it you can't cherry pick tracks, and you have to really take as a whole piece. I think maybe it helped coach some people into better listening habits.
I like that way of looking at it. Yeah, I feel like in the hustle and bustle of life, even someone, my I'd like to say my profession is music. It's hard to find time to sit down and concentrate on like a whole album. I know that sounds kind of whack to say, but sometimes no, and I get it. So that's a very good point. It's like in the pandemic, I definitely found myself doing things and enjoying things that my daily life otherwise wouldn't afford me. Really just sitting down and enjoying a book, or listening to a full album with like kind of no distractions other than my dog or something like that. It's like those are little things that yeah, life is so frantic now, right? We don't kind of afford ourselves those luxuries anymore, I guess. So I definitely feel what you're saying for
Yeah,
sure.
no worries. And then on the other hand, I also think of Thank You Scientist as a live band, as a band that makes music in the studio, puts out releases, but the real, the real canvas is in front of people, is live. When those songs are not finished when they're recorded, they are whatever they are, show to
Yeah.
show, which I've always loved about the band. Appreciate, kind of takes me back to my childhood and my favorite music ever. And so it has, again, with almost a year plus with no gigs, or smattering of gigs here and there, and then to get a little bit of a boost here, where it seemed like, oh, it's getting better. We're gonna go on the cruise, and we're gonna do 26 dates and all of that, and I, the challenges therein. Did you guys feel nervous? Did it feel like a triumph to get back? How was it for you?
Well, yeah, the tour kind of ended on, a bit of like a limp dick kind of thing. We were waiting to get into Canada. We had two Canadian shows at the end of the tour,
Right.
waiting for a PCR test to come back. You need to be tested within 72 hours. That's the law for the border. And Yeah, waiting and waiting, and three of our tests didn't come back. So didn't come back in time for us to play the first show that we had in Canada on our last tour. And then by the time we got all the tests we needed, we found that the last date was canceled because of you know Omicron fears, all that stuff. Um, so we it's not like we were totally unscathed, but we were about as unscathed as we can get. Only losing two shows is not that bad in the scheme of things. Um, and there was also those peripheral concerns of like, okay, what if we get into Canada at the end of this tour? But what if we don't get back in from Canada? It's like you never really know. Like kind of no one really knows what the next mandate or the next law is going to entail. So for musicians, being in different cities every day, being that type of musician, you can't really. I'm hard pressed to think of, that's definitely up there on the list of worst gigs you can have during the pandemic, because every city has its own thing. Every city has different infection rates. Every different city has a level of concern, and whatever. It's just, it's hard waters to navigate for sure. And, it just definitely makes you wonder if, I hate that fucking phrase, the new normal. I hate when people say that, right? Does that like just get under your skin?
Yeah, a little bit.
But
I mean, like it was fine the first 100 times in 2020, and then in 2021, I didn't want it anymore. It's like, no, I don't want this to be
yeah, yeah,
commonplace. That's bad. We want to get through this.
yeah, exactly. I don't want to give into that. I don't like the concept of it. So I'd rather just like keep on doing whatever we have to do to move forward to get past it, rather than just be in this accepting state. I don't like that idea, because I really think that it's going to be very hard for the live music business to ever recover if this is the new normal. um, and that's not to sound negative, but it's just, I mean, really, who the fuck knows about it? I mean, we can all like talk and conjecture about these things, right? But it's just, um, I don't know. It's really, I was thinking about, as I'm sure you are too. I mean, I guess you're in a unique position where it works for you, right? So, yeah, do you find that Zoom interviews are like okay? I mean, I'm sure you'd rather be in the same room,
Yeah,
obviously,
for,
but
for sure. I mean, in the years ago, I did everything over the phone with a recorder, and then so the technology's convenient. Skype to Europe or Zoom for the U.S. We managed to make it work. We lustily threw ourselves. And we're like, okay, because I used for like a long time. I would interview bands at gigs in person. Like it
yeah,
was
of
my
course.
that was our thing. We had it down to a science. Bring our tripod and our camera that we were already using to shoot the show, lighting, etc., mics, and then to transition to this. And I've lived in a few different places during the pandemic. I'm now settled in California, but I'm from the East
Where
Coast.
were you before Cali?
Brooklyn.
Oh, okay.
So I'm in Northern California. It's a lot more sedate with like
Yeah,
1/20th the people than the tri-state area. So
yeah, for sure.
I'm,
It's
I'm
kind of yeah.
yeah, it was good
Northern
for me.
California is a whole nother beast to when you
Yeah.
say California, what people think of. But Brooklyn was
Oh,
kind of the epicenter, for a
Brooklyn
while. Yeah.
nuts, and there was a lot of sirens every day out my
Yeah.
window in Bushwick and all of that. And And that's fine. You can't, hear not so much, but it's still we're still living with this thing. Whatever the next thing is, we're all bracing ourselves for this. But I appreciate you saying, it takes its toll emotionally and mentally on everybody. We
Totally.
don't
Yeah.
we don't want to be trapped in this thing forever. I didn't want to lose. I'm sure you didn't want to lose years without gigs, and you can still make music. And I don't know if you guys were like a live in person writing type of group or share files, since you are a digital age band,
Hmm.
years wise, and a Spotify age band kind of also in your career. But it's hard. You musicians make money touring, playing gigs, handing somebody a record, doing a VIP, sound checking, things like that. Just in general, woodshedding together, especially if you
Yeah.
have a big gangly group of people like you do, and you want
Oh yeah.
everyone in the room. The challenges are there, and then again, we're all also living in with our own humanity at the same time. So it's been. I know everybody's fatigued. I think that's the thing that I'm trying to seize upon heading into the new year for me, is that I sense that everybody across the board, however your stance is, if you have to have one, is that everybody is really fatigued by this whole thing. And we are the entertainment business, and everybody around it who commentates on it. We're all on the outside looking in. Obviously, essential services have to come back first. When things shut down, we're last to come back. We were last to come back. Even things like Broadway, I'm deeply concerned about. Broadway reopened, amazing. I went to a couple of shows out here. I have friends that work in the industry out east, and then suddenly
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah.
shutting down. Not just because people are getting sick; they're just like, "Oh, we have to shut down again. This is nuts."
Yeah. Yeah. I work in the industry a little bit also. I'm a sub on the Tina show, the Tina Turner musical,
Sure.
and that was the last gig I played right before everything shut down. And I remember talking about it in the intermission with all the other musicians and just like saying, "Oh, I wonder what's going to happen." And then maybe 5 days from there, everything was canceled. And then it was looking like it was going to open up again. And I was getting a couple more sub dates offered to me. Unfortunately, I was on tour, but I'm like, oh, you know what? Hit me up when I'm back on tour, and hey, I'll be fine. And then it shut down again. So, you know,
Right. Just yeah.
but you know what? I don't even feel right complaining about that kind of shit. I mean, I'm lucky in that like no one I know is, you know, or almost everyone I know who's had it has had it pretty harmlessly, and that's great. So, those are the real things to focus on. I mean, the work stuff is just like, well, whatever. Who really isn't unaffected.
Right
And
on.
and but yeah, I mean, it's a boner, that's for sure. That's one thing we could all we could all
Right
agree on.
on. By the way, sounds like a fun gig, just in general, if you can take the gigs, because especially if you're a practiced professional musician, Broadway always seemed like an ideal gig, for a transient
Yeah,
professional musicians.
I was just sort of cracking into it before the pandemic, and it's very cool, very fun. But yeah, I think a lot of whatever. Not to digress from but so you're saying with your industry, with the thing that you do, um, you guys were able to carry on, and the product wasn't too like impeded.
No,
I guess.
yeah, we just doubled down whatever we were able to do, and that's the
Yeah.
approach we took. Like whatever we can do, we're gonna do extra hard interviews. I did like double the amount of interviews because I wasn't at a show 5 nights a week. You don't always have an interview to do, so we just did that many more interviews. I launched a news program weekly, of which we'll talk about the music video in this week. But that's we just try to do our best. I think that's all we can do creatively. I'm still a creative person, even though I don't play in bands anymore, and this is my creative outlet. And so whatever I can do to just kind of better myself and keep getting better, that's what I tried to do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. I feel like once we're really able to like do things like play remotely without any lag or something like that, that's really going to be the thing that changes the landscape of live performance forever. Although I think this is sort of like the first like push of the snowball down a hill towards those kind of things. People being more comfortable with live streams and stuff like that. We did a live stream during the pandemic. Um, it's just, yeah, it's a weird time to be a musician, that's for sure.
Indeed. I was gonna say I think for a band like Thank You Scientist, you need the technology to catch up to kind of the expectations of the band professionally in terms of what works, because it's so hard with many members. It's hard enough to make it work with a couple.
Yeah, we're not, you know what, we're not like a super techie band. So I think that the pandemic definitely didn't work in our favor. We're kind of like a let's all get together in a room kind of old school band, you know. There's many ways you can run a band, right? But there's, you know, certain bands where the album is the thing and the performance is the calling card for the album, and then there's vice versa, right? Where the type of band where the album is the calling card for what they do live. And I think we're that kind of band. Um, so yeah, being I guess less technologically, now I wouldn't say inclined, but independent sounds like a weird word to use, but we'll say inclined. Um, yeah, it was sort of extra sucky for us, but it kind of it allowed us to experiment a little bit in you know, doing a record more in-house, having Ben do a lot more of our engineering, Ben the violinist in our band and things like that, and doing a record totally indie, you know, doing a record in a bunch of different locations, trying to do as much writing we could do separately. So it was an interesting moment for us to explore different ways to do stuff, you know, and that's good to mix it up sometimes, you know.
Right on. Do you think that Plague Accommodations is going to have an effect on the next record you guys write? Because I would say I like all of it, but I definitely am digging the vibe of the EP, that it's kind of get in and get out quickly. Certainly nobody would call these pop songs, but or more
Yeah, they're more
commercials.
direct, that's for sure. That was one goal, that we wanted to do something that was more just like rock and roll and less heavily orchestrated. Although the songs in the EP are orchestrated in a different way, I would say. Um, I think we're going to keep on experimenting. I think the EP was the sound of like a bunch of people who were like really angry about stuff and just wanted to get something direct and you know, in a certain energy. Um, and I think the band's naturally going to change. I think, you know, just bands change over time, and think about how literally everyone in every band went through some sort of like massive life change, you know, not just our band. So I would imagine you're going to hear a lot of different albums in the next couple of years, things that you wouldn't expect from us and probably from, you know, a lot more artists at large. I would just imagine that that's a whole perspective shifter majorly living through something like this. So, you know, Sal is the lyric guy in the band, so in my band, so I'm sure that's going to change his perspective on that. Um, but yeah, so I would say that the change in style was just more indicative of our feelings at the time, and that's kind of how we operate as a band. I don't think we try to box ourselves into anything. Um, so who knows? Maybe our next record will be a smooth jazz record, depending on how this next year goes. But yeah, I don't know, but I think I'm picking up on what you're throwing down there with the more direct kind of thing, and I think that
Yeah.
was just, yeah, absolutely a feeling thing. You know, there's a lot of frustration, I think, in the songs.
It's going around, my friend. And I can't miss the opportunity to talk about, you know, as much as like I said, I love the Fox Mulder song. This Matrix, let's call it a parody video,
Mhm.
is unbelievably funny and definitely cut me up big time. I was like, I
Parody? What are
already,
you talking about?
it's
That's
the
the
leak.
Matrix Four.
It's the Matrix 4 leak, but it was great. You know, let's talk about this video for a second, because, like, I had already, yeah, I was like, I went in cold. I didn't know what to expect. And then I
Yeah,
was like, my expectations in the best possible way were subverted completely. I loved it. So let's talk
yeah.
about this thing.
I think one of my favorite things is the occasional shit post, you know, in a certain way, and I think having something so anticlimactic is just really funny to me. A lot of people, we had a lot of like, why would you, why spend time on doing this? But just that reaction is exactly why. I just love it. And I think it started with like an inside joke with like Cody, our bass player, and Richie, who actually they live together Richie's the videographer that we work with a lot, and for people who've seen us in New York or New Jersey, he does live projections on a lot of our shows and stuff. So he's worked with us pretty extensively. And yeah, it was just like a dumb idea. And like, it started off as more of a joke. Like, Cody was like, oh, we should, leak it on Russian torrent sites as the Matrix 4 and just see, how many people download it. But then we just sort of decided that it would be a funny thing to do as the concept for a music video, and have, Richie's character really obsessed with one of the just peripheral characters, one of the twins that really don't need, have any consequence. But it was great. It was a great opportunity for Richie to shred it up on the skateboard a little bit. And he did his own stunts, so all the injuries you see in the video were real. No, but I think we have a long-standing history of not taking ourselves too seriously. And I don't know. I like that.
Right on. And as do we. It was much needed at the holiday turn, Great timing on this video. Yeah, we definitely shared it, and I was dying here.
Thank you. I haven't even
dying
seen the new Matrix in actuality yet. Have you seen it?
I have, and I seem to be in the minority that I really liked it because I understood what movie I was going to see. And
For sure.
even that movie wasn't the movie I got. I got a different experience out of it. A lot of people seem to really hate it.
Yeah,
Most sequels are terrible.
I've been seeing a lot of passionate hatred about it. Yeah.
Reboots are mostly terrible. Remakes are terrible. Most like extended sequel and the sequel to the sequel to the sequel, they're usually bad. And I think a lot of people have shell shock from the Star Wars movies for whatever reason because they didn't know what movie they were going to see. Anyway, as I wear a Star Wars shirt in this
man, fans make it really hard. I mean, not fans of our music, but I look at movie fans, and I don't really have a horse in the race. I'm not really a Star Wars, Marvel kind of. It's just not my bag. There's nothing wrong with it. But man, people like just crucify these people over these movies. Like it's wild. Now, Matrix, I will say, growing up, I rewatched the first Matrix a little while ago, and I felt like it's funny in hindsight. Like a lot of the stuff is funny, but I feel like it stands up as a good movie. The sequels, pretty rough in terms of sequels. I mean, whatever. I'm not one of those people obsessed with preserving the canon of this and that. I don't care. Just for me, is it good? Can I watch it? Sequels were kind of rough, so I can't say my expectations are super high, but I'm gonna go in and check it out. But yeah, you're right. Remakes and reimagine. I mean, there's not many that where I saw the remake and I was like, okay, they did a good job with this. The Blob, maybe.
The Blob, or if something got a sequel after an extremely long time.
Yeah,
like I really loved the Tron movie from like 10 years ago, the Tron 2.
Oh, yeah, I didn't see the Tron remake.
I grew up with the first Tron movie as a little kid, and I was like, this is wild, and I love Jeff Bridges, and I was like, and I'm gonna say Olivia Wilde, and I was like, this is, and Garrett Hedlund, and I was like, this is really well done. They really cared about making this good. That's very rare from my experience personally, and I do have some nerdy horses in the races for some of these sci-fi and fantasy movies, but that's my gig.
For sure.
Just as we wind this down, I want to give you back your day, and I super appreciate you. This has been so much fun. You did celebrate kind of a soft reunion this year of the first EP, and next year is the 10-year anniversary. 10 years. Over 10 years as a band, but 10 years of the first album. So obviously, it's hard to predict what the world is going to look like next month, let alone in 6 months. But does the band have any plans to kind of honor that anniversary, play any of that stuff, more of it live, or are you just kind of concentrating on getting out the music people haven't had a chance to
hear? So if it's for in reference to the first EP that we put out, which was kind of our demo, The Perils of Time Travel, we were talking about maybe trying to get a vinyl reissue of that. Maybe a remaster and a vinyl would be cool because that's never been on vinyl before, and people ask about it all the time. In terms of bringing those songs back, it would have to take some reimagining and orchestration, because our instrumentation nowadays is a little different than what it was at the time when we recorded that. So, and that's not to say that it can't be done, but that's just a matter of me sitting my lazy ass down to figure it out and all that stuff. It wasn't something I considered, but now that you mention it, maybe it would be cool. Yeah, I mean, we have a little flexibility in our touring in the way that the last tour that we did was the first tour that we've ever done where we played like the same set at all the shows. And it was just, it was a support slot. Even on support slots, we normally don't do that. We also had a new drummer join like right before the tour. So it made things way less stressful for everybody involved to have just a more concise, consistent set list. But I would not be surprised if in a headlining scenario, more of those tunes would come out because we can mix things up a little bit more, and I know our agenda on the support tour was to get people kind of up to date with what we're doing in the present time a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, it's been so long since we played some of that stuff that it's crazy. Like, I don't even remember what it sounds like, to be honest with you.
Homework, you have it now.
Yeah,
Maybe
I guess I do.
Something that I enjoyed from the last couple of years is Deftones put out sort of a new version of White Pony. They put out sort of the unfinished version of White Pony. Like, here's a bunch of extra stuff, and then they had a bunch of people remix the tracks and literally give them. I know some of your songs are some like your babies, but like I was really impressed. They gave out their stems and let people just make whole new songs around them, and I thought it was really brilliantly done. And maybe that's a thing also bands can start thinking about, because I thought it was like, this is a really good idea if you choose correctly.
Yeah, that is a cool idea. And I always liked White Pony. That was a cool record. I always thought he had a great guitar sound. What's his name? Stephen Carpenter.
Yeah.
He's a flat earther though, right? Maybe that's the key.
I know. I'm trying to. It's hard. I'm one of those people, I cannot separate the art from the artist sometimes. But it's like, if he wants to believe in crazy shit,
I can.
He's not hurting anybody.
Yeah, I think there's some distance between like believing that the Earth is flat versus a Michael Jackson type scenario,
Oh yeah, or yeah, of course, yeah, or anything, yeah. The list goes on, of course, yeah. Like, he's not hurting anybody except himself and his friends, and
yeah,
he also has much better quality drugs than I do, for sure. So his
clearly
like grip on reality is a lot different than mine.
Yeah, a nice relaxed grip.
Right, not that hard, and nor does it need to be. And I'll just try to appreciate the records, and I loved the last one too. So good on them and good on him. But yeah, I can't help you if you think that Earth ends at the horizon and you need more proof. I don't know what to tell you. You're a guy who has scientisted your band's name, so it's assumed that we're coming from a point of view of intelligence. But
maybe we could start a GoFundMe for a tour where they bring the Deftones to the supposed edge of the Earth for the tour, and then in the culmination of the tour, the final date, he proves to everybody that the world is flat, and they play right on the crest of where the Earth drops off.
And then they can play "Hole in the Earth" to celebrate, because that's a great song.
I love it.
Just lastly, what are you looking forward to in 2022? Anything across the spectrum?
Not getting any of my fucking shit canceled would be cool.
Right.
No, I don't know. Just this a step towards being functional again. In terms of the gig world would be great. And I don't know, people fucking get along. That would be cool. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Those are some good things to keep your fingers crossed for. Definitely the former, maybe the latter. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a big goal,
is.
but I'm kind of an aim high kind of guy.
I like it. Tom Monda, thank you, scientist man. Thanks for hanging out with Ghost Cult. It has been a pleasure chatting with you today. I really appreciate it. Plague Accommodations is out now. Check out the Bandcamp. We're gonna link everything below. And again, just all the best to you, man. Keep your head up, and as we march into 2022.
Yeah, right back at you guys, man. Good luck on all your new ventures and your extra heavy interview schedule. That's all good, man. I'm glad you guys are thriving over there. That's awesome.
We're doing our thing. Thanks so much. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, man. Take care, Keith.